Tom Zenk is ready to go. Tom, what's going on?
Hey, how you doing, David?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good. How have you been?
Excellent. If I was any better, I'd be twins. How you doing? You called here yesterday for me.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about the show before we did it, but didn't get a chance.
Sorry, didn't get back to you. I got to work a real job.
Like it is.
What?
I said I got to work a real job.
Yeah, I know.
So what's going on? What were you just talking about? Bret Hart here and McMahon, and
somebody suggested they're doing you were watching the show, the Who Hit Steve Austin.
Yeah.
Somebody suggested it should be Bret Hart.
Yeah.
Which actually, except it's not going to be, so.
Oh, okay.
You know, I mean, I think people would pop for it. It's just not going to be.
Nah. What happened I saw him on TV. He doesn't look so good, I'll tell you that.
Who, Bret?
Yeah, I mean, is he just... Was he punch drunk, or, I mean, is he out of it, or, I mean, did someone take the wind out of his sails, you know what I'm saying?
He got somewhere between, what's the numbers, 5 and 7 concussions in a 3-week period, and he's punch drunk in many ways.
What is that attributed? Who got him, or potatoes, or what?
Yeah, well, I think that everyone thinks it probably started at Starrcade. Goldberg kicked him in the side of the head, and it was like a mule kick.
Yeah.
And he was all groggy and everything, but, you know, being a wrestler, he continued to wrestle for a couple weeks, and he wrestled a match with Terry Funk where he took all the hardcore stuff with the garbage cans and everything. And
oh, God.
He wrestled for like 2 more weeks, had headaches and everything, went to the doctor, and the doctor goes, oh, my God, you know, you're screwed up. And then he took test after test, and then, like, finally they came to him and just go, you had 5 to 7 concussions in 3 weeks.
Oh, God.
So, I mean, he's probably, you know, there's a good chance he's done.
Yeah, he is done. He's got to be done if it's like that. And he lost his wife, too?
Well, that happened, too, yeah.
Oh, God. Yeah,
and his brother.
Yeah, oh, God. It all comes at once. It kind of comes in threes, huh?
I guess.
Well, you know, that's the old saying, but, that's too bad.
Yeah, and his career got screwed. He went to WCW for all that money, and then the minute he got there, they immediately, somehow, he came in, drew this big buy rate with Ric Flair, and then the next thing you know, the program's over.
Well, that's typical for down there. They like to kill stars, or like to, you know, they cool you off. It's the top guys that manipulate. You know that.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you can't be competition if you put out. I mean, look at Benoit. Gee, he couldn't do nothing down there, and he played the game. He was a nice guy, great body, looked good. He's doing good now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
I mean, what I couldn't understand is he had the same finish, the sharpshooter, like Sting, and then they had Sting, Hogan, and Bret Hart. The best there was, the best there ever will be. Hogan, the biggest ego, the best. They had Ric Flair down there. Couldn't they have done a 4-way kind of gimmick, or a tournament, or a, you know, to fight for the finish? They had a ready-made gimmick going on there, didn't they? How did they fumble the ball there?
They had ready-made stuff, and
what happened?
There's very poor booking. What can we say?
Who was the booker then? Sullivan?
Let's see. When Brett first came in, who was the guys who were calling the shots then? I mean,
I don't know. I'm asking you. You're the most credible guy in the wrestling industry.
Okay, realistically.
I saw it. I read it on your webpage. How do you like that?
I didn't write it myself.
He was quoted as saying, you know, Wade Keller, he's a geek, but nice guy, but, you know, I mean, he's not Dave Meltzer.
Oh, well, that's going to get me some more. It's going to get me more heat for that one.
Well, I'm trying.
No, I know. No, realistically, I think it's Hogan. I mean, as far as, like, who called that shot, I mean, the way I read it is that, you know, Hart and Flair came in, and Flair did, you know how Flair did some unbelievable interviews they put him in a pay-per-view with only 3 weeks to build it up, which was not enough time.
Yeah.
Okay, Flair came in there, and they did some face-to-face interviews, and they were excellent. Hart was good, but Flair was out of this world.
Yeah.
And the match drew like a 1 buy rate, which it had no business doing, and then all of a sudden, you know, the next thing they wanted to do was team up Flair and Bret Hart together, which is weird because their program was doing so good. So they start this program for like 3 weeks, 4 weeks of Flair and Bret Hart saving each other, and then before they even work one tag team match, they decide to take Rick off TV and Bret off TV. What does that tell you? So there you go. And it was never the same after that.
Wow. They don't.
And then when the movie Wrestling with Shadows came out, they had a golden opportunity to jumpstart him off that movie and repackage him. And they instead kept him off TV for like, several weeks after the movie because they were afraid that fans would cheer him because of the movie, and they didn't want that, so they took him off TV. And then when Owen died, for better or for worse, they had a golden opportunity to mark him as a babyface.
Sure.
And they made him a babyface for about a month, and then Russo went and turned him heel. After his brother died with all that sympathy towards him.
Oh, for the love of God.
So
really?
that's Bret Hart's last couple of years.
Oh, boy. No wonder.
Yeah.
That'll make you take Prozac or just, oh, no. Because Bret, he seemed like the kind of guy that just always wanted to be figured in. That was the rap on him from the boys, not so much the money, but Bret wanted to just be a part of it. He loved it. He was second generation. It was in his blood. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, and as it ended up in WCW, he made all kinds of money and was never figured in.
Yeah, but what the whole point is it's like Kenru told me in Japan. You come here, you make big money, you take money home, you got to spend money, visit Japan, work hard. Company must make money first. If the company doesn't make money and you're not for the company, I mean, they really don't need you, right?
Yeah, if you're not a team player, sure.
Yeah, that's how business works. But, I mean, these egos and that, I guess they're not in too good a shape there. What about this Mandalay Sports or whatever?
Mandalay Sports looks to be the prime suitor. WCW, because the AOL merger and just because they're losing ungodly amounts of money.
Yeah, about $80 million this year, huh?
Yeah, 70 to 80 million.
Yeah.
They're looking to sell, and Mandalay with Eric Bischoff look to be the prime suitor. They're not the only ones, apparently.
Yeah.
And if the deal's not done yet, but everyone sort of expects something. Actually, some people. I had heard a lot of people who expected it to go down Wednesday. It did not, and the feeling was if it didn't go down by Wednesday, they won't announce anything until the 23rd, because everyone's in Australia. And I got a call, by the way, right before the show from one of the guys from Australia, just kind of in a panic, like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And he just said that, like, they're all in Australia, and nobody knows who owns the company. Nobody knows if they're going to have a job when they come back, except the top guys know they will. But, most 80% of the guys there have, what's going to happen, what's up with Russo. They're all in Australia, and no one, and everyone's just going crazy because nobody knows what's going on, which is really great for the guys.
Okay, Dave, but to be serious, hypothetically, okay? What do you make of a business that employs someone, gives them a huge salary? He then brings his friends in on multi-million-dollar salaries, runs the company into the ground with $80 million a year losses until the company is worth nothing. And then the parent company sells the company to him and his new backers at rock-bottom prices. Now, who's the fool? Is Siegel that stupid?
What's so funny is when the Bischoff name surfaced.
Bischoff? He was a loser announcer for Verne. He was a coffee boy. I never had any respect for him.
I know, but
he never created talent. The power of TV is so strong. He does, he's a mark. But see, there's still that Jason Hervey connection, too.
Well, that's the Mandalay connection right there.
I know, but what I'm saying is, Jason Hervey faxed or wrote a fancy letter to Bill Shaw or Bob Dew, one of the two, putting him over that they wanted him for a game show host or for a producer out in Hollywood. That's what helped slide him into the spot in WCW.
That's how he got the thing in, 93, 94, after Watts got booted. That's right.
He wrote a phony resume, and he kind of, he was a handsome kid, and he was skinnier then. Now he looks like a chubby, mushy fat arse, but, I don't know. I think he had his run with fun, so. Yeah, how does that work?
How does that work?
Yeah,
got in, he had success, and then it wasn't successful.
Yeah, but he had success. He stole all the talent. Vince's kid said it the best, the genetic tack hammer. The kid, not the jackhammer, the tack hammer. Yeah, yeah. He said it best that his dad made all the talent, and he did. And then none of the guys have done anything in WCW. Hall, Nash, without Scott Hall, what's Nash?
Well, we've learned that.
The cardboard cutout got a bigger pop than Nash, right? What do they call him? The Breck Girl? I like that.
The Breck?
The Breck Girl. With that hair, he's always doing his hair.
Right.
It's like, wow, don't you get it? Are those Turner people? I got to believe they're naive and they're kind of markish, but come on.
Well, after 12 years, I think that they are because they, just look at the last thing. Vince, we got to go to a break right now, but I just want to think about this one.
Yeah.
Vince Russo, in one of his last acts, made himself world champ, or potential last acts, made himself world champion.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Where do they pick up that stuff? I think they learn from Dusty and those kind of people.
I think that they learn it. I think that they learn it. I think that they learn it from. I think that when you're a booker,
yeah,
and you're also on-air talent, which is natural. You naturally think that, let's do something to get me over. I mean, look at whether it was Dusty or Hogan or Vince McMahon or anyone. Yeah. Whenever they were in charge and they were on-air talent, they dominated the television.
Well, listen, baby, why did Vince Russo put his face on television?
Let's see. This is Josh who says his vote for the worst ring entrance music ever is The Big Show. And Jim here says the worst song ever. This is not actually entrance music. This is just the worst song ever in the history of the world. Is "I Want to Be a Hulkamaniac." Was that David Sullivan's ring entrance music maybe? But I remember the song. "I Want to Be." Jimmy Hart wrote it. It was horrible. And also, this is, let's see, Stampede Wrestling regrets to announce the television coverage of Stampede Wrestling on the 8 channel and Regina Cable has been discontinued until further notice. This is due to rising television production costs that the promotion could no longer absorb. They're still going to be running house shows every 2 weeks in the vicinity of Calgary at the Ogden Legion Auditorium. So, anyway, that's the story on Stampede Wrestling as of right now. We were back with Tom Zenk, and he was about to do a Dusty Rhodes impersonation.
Listen, baby, I don't have time for that.
That's pretty.
My son is sitting home collecting mailbox money, and I'm out here taking bumps on the road with ECW and my Turnbuckle Promotions business.
That was pretty good.
I don't know. I heard a lot of his stuff, boy. Never sold for him, but I had to hear it. I used to like to stare at him because he was so obese. He'd pull out those shirt tails like a fat broad. And then he'd pull that hat down so you couldn't see the scars on the forehead that he was so proud of, drew all that money. Now, what happened to him? What did he do? Spend every dime he ever made? He's still taking bumps at 56?
He's slim for his...
What's that thing on his side?
What? You know, the thing on his side...
That big black gimmick?
Splotch.
That blotch?
The dread splotch.
I don't know. Is it a birthmark?
I don't know. I think that I just got a whole bunch of 1970s wrestling magazines that somebody sent me. So there's probably a photo of Dusty when he first broke in, and I think he didn't have it then.
Really?
Maybe it was painted on. No, I don't know.
No. Painted on?
No, I'm just teasing, of course not.
Yeah, I was going to say. Well, the best thing they ever did was cover him up with that polka dot suit. That's where I thought he was in his prime.
Yeah, prime of humiliation.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, I guess he was so embarrassed. Magnum TA told me that was the most humiliating thing he's ever had to do in his life.
Well, that in Sapphire.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
I mean, they you look back on that one. They paid him, after he lost his job in WCW.
Yeah.
They paid him a lot of money and put him over.
Yeah.
But they got their jollies out of it, didn't they?
Oh yeah, he fished a turd out of a toilet.
Yeah.
The son of a plumber man, baby. This is the American dream, Dusty Rhodes.
Yeah.
Look at the way he treated Ric Flair. Come on.
Yeah.
I mean, now, Flair's a legacy. I heard you, I listened to that interview you did with Flair, and you put him over like no one. And I know you're a mark for Flair, just like I am, right?
Oh, yeah.
He is the best, bar none. Hogan, oh, yeah, he drew a lot, but he took his vitamins and said his prayers. Okay, that's been exposed. But Flair, night after night, in the ring, out of the ring, partying. Have you ever seen a Ric Flair party or him at a bar?
Yes, many times.
You know you do. Okay, you know the commotion, the money flying, and 40 kamikazes. 40 kamikazes. Steven, Pillman, come on over here. Who's the ladies? Listen, brother, God love you, brother. You're my hero. I mean, he was fantastic to do that night after night after night. But what I want to know is, I saw his haircut. So if Rick looks like David, does that mean David is more like Rick? You notice the haircut?
Well, they shaved his head, and then it's grown back to that level.
Why'd they shave his head?
Russo did it theoretically, so Rick could come back and get great revenge on Russo, right?
Okay, so they're like buddies, right?
What, Rick and Russo?
Yeah, he's a hell of a match. He didn't give me as good a match as he had with Russo on top of the cage. He didn't. I'd like to believe I was some kind of threat to him. I mean, he held me down on the front face, and I remember Cornette telling me the finish, and Nate had to get a strong win, and that TV show would show before the pay-per-view, so all that baloney. I never minded about losing. I lost, and, I'm still a loser, but it didn't affect me. It was about the cash. He gave Russo a hell of a match, so I figured, oh, no, what kind of deal they got going on? He did. He did, and he sold for him, too. I'm sitting watching TV and going, oh, my God.
And that was Russo's first match ever.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So all the cliches and Flair could have a match with a broomstick. Yeah, of course it's true. He's the best.
El Gigante, Bischoff, and Russo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? I'm a mark for Flair, too. But now with his son and that, and I know you don't want to touch on it or it's probably bad, but, geez, David, don't you know the legacy that your father has left behind? Those are big shoes to fill. Look at Greg Gagne. Look at Mike Graham. Look at Dusty Rhodes' kid, the runt of the litter. Look at Eric Watts. Now, Ric Flair's kid, you know the obstacles he's got to overcome?
Well, what's the saddest part of with David is that they rushed him out there.
Yeah.
And, they put him out there with, almost no training, and... David Flair is Ric Flair's son.
Yeah.
And you've seen it before. If in certain cities, when I come to Charlotte, Greensboro, with the right build-up, he could have meant something. A little bit. Rick and like the Von Erich kids did in their home cities, right?
That's right.
He could have meant something if he was just a competent worker that people saw as someone on the rise. But he was out there, and the poor guy, unfortunately, became a joke from day one. And now, he's out there as a comedy figure, but it's I just think it's just really sad.
It's really sad. But Rick, he got humiliated, or they did the wrong thing with him in the WWF. They take the edge off you up there, and you got to play Vince's game, and it was Hogan Town up there. You know what I'm saying? Hogan couldn't perform like Rick, take a guy an hour Broadway. Flair can do it, but what I'm saying is, he's got to be careful. Go out with some style, for God's sakes. What, did he spend every dime he ever made? Being around the business, but he's got a booker mind. He can book, but a booker should never wrestle at the same time because they're clouded. Their vision is clouded. When he booked in WCW, he was overworked. Working and booking was too much for him.
Remember that? He was looking bad.
Yeah, the bags under his eyes is what Johnny Ace and myself really noticed. And we felt bad for him. Even Janie Ingalls said the same thing. You could tell it was just too much. But he knows the right thing to do. But I'm sure the boys think too, they don't mind if Flair's kid collects a check because Flair did a lot for the business. But keep him off TV till he's ready. You could pay him, I don't care, look at how much money they pissed away already. $80 million they're going to lose. Give him $150,000, $200,000. Just keep him off. Have him go to the power plant and watch Ric Flair tapes and videos and interviews for 12 hours a day. And if he needs to go and get some gas or something, I can help him out. Go to Mexico across the border. You can get a 3-month supply, I can help him out. But see, that's the hindsight of all this. Flair, he was never too endearing to me and helping me out, when Ole took over being Booker and that, And look at Johnny Ace. He had to hide out in Japan. Shane Douglas, he made a career out of trash and Flair. But now I could be in shape to help and have matches with Ric Flair and his boy. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to wear out. I'm going to rust out. But I got I've got another job. It's just too bad that hindsight's 20/20. But what I'm saying is, I could help out a lot. I got a lot of ideas, and I saw things through a different set of eyes and body and face than some of these other guys. So I have a different perspective of what works and what doesn't. And I've never really had an ego about wrestling. You know what I'm saying? I did jobs. I didn't give them any crap. Yeah, beat me some more.
Okay, serious question?
Yeah.
Okay, you were there during the early years of the WCW buyout and everything like that.
Yeah.
And, for several years. What, ultimately, the sale, if it goes through, and it's probably will.
Yeah.
The 12 years under Turner.
Yeah.
Ultimately are going to be looked at as, and we talked about this on the show all week, as a failure in that they came in, they were owned by one of the biggest companies in the world.
Deep pockets.
Deep pockets. By all rights, they should have created a dynasty in wrestling that had never been before that nobody had ever had before. And except for about a 2-year period, they were basically a losing company to Vince McMahon. And where do you think, if you were going to put a finger on some of the things that went wrong, and I think, one of them right there is the people that were put in charge of the company didn't know wrestling. Yeah. But where do you point like the finger at for the basic 12-year, 10 of the 12 years being failure years, I guess, or 9 of the 12, whatever it would be?
Well, let me give you a little bit of summary. This is just from my tainted view and said by Tom Zenk, Z-Man. Oh, you got to be put in the spot, and it's all politics and it's playing the game. But I never kissed anyone's arse, and I was kind of a straight shooter. Okay, when Turner acquired it, the NWA WCW, it was a turning point for me and professionalization of wrestling. Guaranteed long-term contracts, that they were making an investment in your career, in the talent and the creation of talent. WWF was eventually forced to match it, but all the attempts by Hurd, Petrick, Kip Fry, they had Bill Bush, they worked them. They just swerved them because they could never guess what really goes on behind the scenes. And they were kind of subverted by the old-style carnies, the wrestling promoters. People like Ole, Dusty Rhodes, Bill Watt, they preferred the exercise of personal power was like their own company. They ran it, through cronyism, nepotism, and professionalization, accountability, that was just out the window. They drove out real talent. They had Mick Foley. They had Triple H. They had all these guys that really, really loved getting hooked up with WCW, and they were proud to work with Turner in favor of their sons and old, green, cheap workers. Okay, that's the way Ole and all the old-style promoters ran it, like their personal property. But no, it was Turner's, okay? Then there was contracted workers and the old-style promoters that created animosity, bad feelings to the company, lower wages and conditions leading to the exodus of talent, like Foley, Steiners, Austin, Ace, Hall, Nash, Douglas, Zenk, Triple H, more recently Benoit and Malenko. I mean, guys making $500,000 and they leave? No. So finally WCW ended up with Bischoff. He spoke out of both sides of his mouth. He kept both sides happy. He mixed modern managerial speak with old-style cronyism, and finally bankrupted the promotion, trying to make a name for himself with big-name contracts and no accountability. He let the inmates run the asylum. You don't let guys have control over the finishes. In my contract, if I'd have said, no, I don't want to do a job, boom, you're fired, Zenk. And people said, oh, yeah, you should speak up, or, I should have said, Les Thatcher, I read an interview what he said about me. If I was thinking no, I should have said no instead of yes. They purposely do the wrong thing. And it's all caught up to them, but it's taken 12 years. But to lose $80 million, One time, I'll give you a classic line. This is really a good one. And Ole should sue me if it's slanderous. I went into Ole one time when he was burying me, fined me like $3,000 for missing a shot when I had a personal conflict, right? Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do.
Okay. So I went into the office and I met with him, and I was up at Gainesville, and it was, Flair was shaving. I'll never forget it. And Ole was giving me the raspberries, and he had an audience. And I said, Rick, when you hired me, did you hire me at $156,000 for 2 years to just be a job guy, get beaten like a rented mule? You know what Rick said to me? Who's done more jobs than me? What do you say to that? That's how clever Rick is, okay? And I'm sure you can hear him saying that. Okay, so it went further. I had my friend Lenny out in California write back a letter to buy me out. If you didn't want me, don't ruin my career, just buy me out. Well, on the webpage, it has all those legal documents. I don't know if you saw it in that, but it has the correspondence between the Turner people and an analyzation of all that. Well, I caught Dusty Ole one-on-one in the office one time, and it was in Jim Barnett's office. Yeah, come on in here, we'll talk. I said, what's going on here? Why are you busting my chops? You split up me and Pillman. I said, why are you busting my balls and Pillman's balls? And what about Sting? He's making $750,000 a year. How do you justify that? Why don't you go after him? All the people are dressed like chairs. Ole says to me, $750,000 a year, I'd suck cock all day. Line them up for $750,000 a year. I'd suck cock all day. And Ole Rock Rogowski, if you're listening, you sue me for slander if that's a lie, because that's the damn truth. What do you say to that? What do you say to a guy that says something like that to you? He went after me and Pillman, and not a guy like Sting that wasn't drawn, but he was making $750,000. But Ole said, line him up. He'd suck cock all day for $750,000.
We got to go to a break right now.
Yeah, you like that one, huh?
Oh, yeah. Got a couple of email questions. Going to talk about your Bill Watts days. This is from Vic, who says, when I was a Houston police officer in 1983-84, I worked at Paul Bosch's wrestling shows. Tom Zenk worked a preliminary match, and I never saw him again. I remembered him because he was a nice-looking young guy with a good physique, but I never saw him again. How long did he work for Mid-South? Did he like it here? And why did he stay such a short time?
Oh, well, that was the first real territory that I went to. I said, you send the 8x10s to Bill Watts. I got hired down there. And interesting story on that. I got down there the first night I wrestled in the Centralplex down in Baton Rouge. And on the chalkboard, when I came back from my match, Terry Taylor had written, Tom Zenk is too pretty. And then I say, yeah, but then I didn't really know. Sharky kind of would half-smarten you up. You didn't know how much travel. You didn't know the money. You know what I'm saying? So it was like, whoa, this is really an eye-opener. But I'd always wanted to wrestle for Vern, so I went down there and I had a Ford Fiesta. I didn't know you traveled 2,000-3,000 miles a week, and these guys, the boys, the Rock and Roll Express was down there, Condrey and Eaton, and the baby faces, they're always fighting for spots. They keep them insecure the way Bill ran his thing. And I said, where do you guys live? They all lived in one apartment complex in, somewhere central Louisiana, right? And none of the guys were real friendly or whatever. It was like, wow, it was a real strange feeling. I asked them all, where do you live, and this and that. Oh, we live here, so-and-so. They weren't very helpful. And then after I was down there about 10 days, my dad had an angioplasty done. He went into the hospital. It was just like an emergency thing. And boom, it kind of shocked me. So I just kind of up and left. To get an apartment down there, you'd have to have like a $250 deposit on the phone. And I didn't have this money, and payday, Watts, you couldn't get into his pocket. So, I had to just pack up my stuff, and it just didn't work out, and I left. So Bill Watts stiffed me on the whole time I was down there.
Really?
Yeah. He stiffed me, and I called the office one time, and I said, he no money, this and that. He says, you're a flake, boy. Talk to me that boy stuff, and I thought, oh, okay. So when I drove back from Louisiana, I drove back the whole way. I went into Vern's office that day when I got back, and Vern was out to lunch. I was just leaving. I talked to the secretary. I talked to Wally Carbo for a while. He eyed me up and down. I had cowboy boots, so I looked about 6'2", 3", good body and stuff. I said I was just down wrestling for Bill Watts, and they didn't really have much for me, and blah, blah, blah. Vern, all of a sudden, he came in. So went into his office. He sat down. He gave him about 10 minutes of his time. I said, hey, listen, I know you're a busy man. You give me 5 minutes of your time, I'll show you I can wrestle. I think I'd be an attribute to you. I was Mr. Minnesota, blah, blah, blah. And he gave me the gaga, and 2 weeks later he was training me for free with Brad Rangans and Rick Renslow. So
That's a name I hadn't heard in a long time.
Oh, yeah, the Axeman or the Alaskan or whatever, Rick Renslow. He's a friend of Sheik Adnan LKC. So the other deal was a great con how I got in with Vern. Juice DeRusha, remember Al DeRusha that they all jumped to the WWF? That's when they were losing guys, right?
Right, Gary.
Yeah. So they said, oh, yeah, we're going to, we'll set up a ring, blah, blah, blah. So a week went by, 2 weeks went by. So I called the office, and I talked to Mary, the secretary, and I said, hey, was it someone from your office that called, or was it the WWF, a guy named Juice? And she says, oh, no, he's with the other. I said, well, this is Tom Zenk. And I had talked to her and made a point to be real nice to her and charming. And I said, they wanted me to start. Was that you or them? Oh, no, he works at, just hang on just a minute. She came back to the phone about 2 minutes later, and she goes, do you know where Vern's place is out on Highway 7? She says, it's a mailbox that says Gags. She says, Vern will have the ring up on Monday, and you start out there at 9 o'clock in the morning with Brad Rangans. And this was on a Friday afternoon.
That is a great con.
Yeah. So, how do you like that one?
That's a good one, especially because if you understand what wrestling was like during that time period.
Yeah.
That was pretty clever.
Yeah.
This is from someone who goes, I mean, I know you've known the guy for a long time. He's almost like a protege of yours.
Yeah.
What do you think of Johnny Ace, as far as in WCW?
Well, see, Ace, he hooked up, or he was always nice to DDP. Johnny's a nice guy. I don't know what happened in Japan, but it seems like he was looking for a place to go.
Well, what happened was All Japan, All Japan was, he spent a career with All Japan, and then All Japan, all of the native guys like Misawa, Kawada, all the guys that you're aware of, they all split and formed their own company, and the only one who stayed was Kawada. Everybody else...
Kawada's loyal.
Right. Kawada's the only one who stayed with Baba. Everyone else left. Yeah. And at that point, Johnny Ace got the job with WCW. I think he probably saw the handwriting on the wall that instead of one major league company, it's going to be two minor league companies type of a thing. Yeah.
I'm sure Johnny saw the handwriting on the wall. He pulled his ace card out, and he called DDP. Knew they were floundering, but he was always nice to him. I'm sure he knew DDP had some stroke with Bischoff and this and that. They had history, and he's a Florida boy and Animal's brother. And Johnny's a real nice guy. He's very clever with finishes, and he knows how to manipulate. Now, Johnny Ace, myself, Terry Taylor, you, and Ric Flair, we could probably book that whole thing and turn it around.
Tough.
And Jim Barnett, I called him a few weeks ago on a Sunday. Oh, hello, my boy. How are you, Tom? I said, good. How are you? I never like to let these guys forget my name because he made me promises that he never kept and this and that, right? So I said, what's going on, Mr. Barnett? How are you doing? Just gave him the gaga. I said, I'm going on Dave Meltzer's show, and I said, I'm going to light a few people up. It's a very entertaining show, so you can say what you feel like. Oh, I'm not hooked up to the Internet, Tom, and I don't have any contact with wrestling. A week later, I see him with Dick Byers up in Buffalo, and he's wearing the mask gimmick on. This
Byers
is
was.
What?
You mean Byer in the crowd with the mask, right?
Yeah, and Barnett was sitting next to him, and he was yawning at the matches. I thought, yeah, that's a telltale sign of your matches, Mr. Barnett. But he had told me a week earlier, oh, no, I'm not in wrestling at all. I have no idea, Tom. So that gives you I thought, you liar, you old fart.
That's the greatest impersonation.
70-some years old, and this old fart's pulling my chain? And he helped me get a job in WCW. Who cares? I wasn't looking for work. I just don't want Jim to forget my name. Because I know he caused Pillman a lot of problems, too. Pillman believed in a guy like that. He didn't know how manipulative Jimmy Boy was,
Yeah. You didn't know that Brian's Jim's grandson.
What?
We got you on that one.
Brian Alvarez? You're his grandson?
That's right.
Are you serious? Well, why would he lie to me?
No, he's not really.
Oh, I thought he was because he wrestled in Portland. I've always liked Portland. You still wrestle up there, my boy?
Yes, I do.
What's going on with the commission? I hear there's a lot of heat. How about the Rats? Any dirt on any of the boys?
That is the greatest impersonation, too.
Yeah,
I've got a lot of impersonations, but they never let me do any interviews. Now, that's another act I have to grind. Yeah.
Interviews for other people.
Huh?
You're making up for it.
Well, I mean, thanks to you, you're letting me on the show. But, you helped me out. You got me the 156. I don't know how you did it, but I figured you were the puppet master. Yeah, you did. You told me, didn't you? They'd go for that for 2 years, right? It was before DDP in 94, before Austin. I got it in 89.
Yeah.
Yeah. I never got the push I was promised, but, oh, well. That's neither here nor there. It's not crying and spilled milk, but I got a heck of a story to tell. I got a dirt on a lot of people, and I was never married. But I don't think I'll tell any of the dirt. I prefer to be anonymous and like Dynamite Kid. No name.
What did you think about that book?
I love the book. He was the most honest. I've read them all, and I'm only in this stuff because of my friends on the Internet, Rod Dixon and Lee McMichael. They contacted me on my 40th birthday, and they thought I had a story to tell. And I do. So, Dynamite Kid, I read his. I wrote DDP. DDP was just all, hey, guys, can you say something nice about me? But they all alluded to all his knee pads and hockey pads. He looked like a rollerblader. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, it was like, say something, come on. That's, geek. How come Vince? Yeah. Did he really go up to Vince's office and have a talk with him to try and go up there?
I don't think he did, actually.
Oh, that was just all. So he's just putting out this fodder on the internet and all that stuff. It's all lies, right?
I think that you know, they definitely had talked, but I think that where it ended was that he couldn't get out of his contract with WCW.
Oh, really? Well, I think they got a good gimmick like Dusty or Dustin for DDP. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure Vince said, "Didn't I graduate with you same year?" Yeah, I got a good gimmick for DDP. You should wear a rubber mask. So, yeah. Someone said, "You're always hard on DDP. Can't you say something nice about him?" Yeah, he's got a nice smile. That's about it. Anyway.
Let's see.
When's your book coming out?
I don't know. I've got to talk to Dave on that because I got to have Dave proofread it. You know, because he's got the chronological order and he's got different things that maybe I've forgotten about. I want to tie some stuff in there with Pillman too, because he can't speak, but I can speak for him. You know, they should have never broken us up. I don't know what that was all about. We had really good matches.
Yeah,
you know?
Same thing could be said. How about Pillman with Austin? Those guys were tremendous together.
Tremendous. They were better than me and Pillman.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, they really clicked, but that Steve Austin, he's got a really great work ethic. And when I wrestled him in singles, hey, listen, I'll admit, I had it on autopilot a lot. I had God-gifted ability, but looks and that's from my parents, and that's just a freak thing that happens. That's an accident of nature when you're young. When you get older, you don't look so good and things change. Okay? But I didn't need to get railed on. All I was doing is getting Austin ready for Dustin. Okay? Just like Steamboat said. You know, that's why he left when Dusty was down there, because Dusty, you know, he didn't have nothing for him. That's just the way wrestling is. Okay? Huh?
Oh, wait. Brian, you got a question?
No.
Talk to me.
I thought you were trying to say something. Oh, okay,
Talk to
I got
me,
a question.
Brian Barnett.
I got a question. Because when you brought up Steamboat's name the other day on the show.
Yeah.
What do you think? Because what do you think of the idea of Steamboat being hired by WCW as kind of a coach for these younger guys? Because, you know, Steamboat as a babyface was a hell of a worker when it came to timing and
None
things
better.
like that.
Him and Flair's stuff was real classic, but I love the Macho Man deal. They stole the show at WrestleMania 3. I never seen a match like that. Because I saw that match, him and Macho Man going around the loop on the road, priming up for that, but they really blew the lid off the thing at WrestleMania 3. And then we had to look at the Honky Tonk Man. Yeah. Another manipulative thing behind the scenes, I think by the Hulkster. Yeah. So, anyway, I think Steamboat would be fantastic. I heard, I read something lately that he hurt his back, or when he was wrestling Austin. They had to
retire.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had to retire.
He kind of went out in class. He brought his family into this stuff. But, yeah, there should be a place for guys like them. They have knowledge. Knowledge is capital. Even I have knowledge, and I can still wrestle. I can do things, but, wrestling, oh, well, it didn't work out for me like a lot of guys. A lot of guys did worse, got shafted. But, yeah, Steamboat would really be good, the psychology and just the moves. I went to a show that Harley was running in Iowa, and these young guys had a lot of pea and vinegar in them, but Harley was coaching them, and I think they were trying to put a show on for me because I showed up. There was maybe 100, 200 people there, but, they really worked. Yeah, Steamboat, he could shape and help these young talent. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Give them some insight, but it's the thing that if the old-timers will mentor and give you their benefit of their knowledge of all the years. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, when you were there, I know that there was, and all through WCW, it got worse. It got worse long after you left.
Oh, yeah.
The whole situation was, there was always that feeling that they wouldn't pass the knowledge, except for Steamboat. It was always like Steamboat was the guy who was like, guys used to always tell me, how Steamboat would help them on this and that, but it was always like, nobody else would want to give you those little extra, the little tips that make the difference between mid-card and main event, if you know what I mean.
You know why that is?
Yeah, they were trying to keep their spot.
That's right.
Yeah. It became
They're fighting for spots all the time, and no one wants to help anyone, but they want to level the playing field. They called me out. They said I was gay. They said I was a quitter. They said I was a prima donna. Well, look at the guys today. They don't even want to make their shots, and it's like, what? So everything they said about me and all that stuff, it was all a lie. Quitter in the WWF, prima donna in WCW. They couldn't beat me enough to make me quit in WCW for $3,000 a week. You know, I mean, you know, Ryan, it's fake. You know, they tell you who's going to win or lose, how much time you have to put in. I mean, yeah, they were really some smart, clever manipulators, boy. They couldn't bust my back. I took the best that all the clever minds had to take. No, Steamboat, he's got a lot of knowledge, but he was secure with himself, okay? He gave Pillman knowledge, I remember Brian saying, and he helped out Shane Douglas immensely. And even when I wrestled under the mask, he was great with me and this and that. Only thing I didn't, he pulled off his mask, and, you know, it's kind of markish, you know, to show that he didn't get pinned. It's like, oh, God. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, dear God. You know?
Yeah, but how many people knew it was you anyway?
Nobody knew. I think I called you after the match and said, did you know? And you had no idea. They didn't know because I know how to imitate. I know how to act. That's the whole point that they all missed out on.
Tom.
Yes.
We were talking about a match. A lot of the listeners probably don't know about this match, but it was tag match. Was it Pillman in Austin?
Yes.
Against you and Steamboat as Dos Hombres. The gimmick was that Steamboat and Shane Douglas had been feuding with Pillman in Austin. And what happened? Did Douglas quit the company or was he injured?
Yeah, he quit the company. He thought he was going to hurt him in a main event, and they'd be begging back to get him back to wrestle. Okay,
so he quit the company right before this main event. So what they did was they had actually this is an old gimmick because they did this here in San Francisco in '77 when Fuji quit, and they brought in Tanaka under a mask and called him Fuji, which was actually a big deal at the time. So anyway, they put Steamboat and Zenk as Dos Hombres under a mask, and they actually had built it up on TV.
Yep. And
everybody was under the impression that you were Shane Douglas.
Yeah, but I'd watched so many matches. I mean, once you get it down, once you're on the Japan bus and you're around Danny Crawford or Phil LaFon for a long time, you get some good ideas. You go over and over and you practice. And you get it down pretty good. By that time, I could see everyone's move, or I could imitate them just like the voices. So they were going to have Brad Armstrong, but I think he was grandfathered out of the match because he's second generation and, gee, he didn't want to do a job under the mask maybe. I think Ole was backstage at the Omni then, and we'll put Zenk in there. Beat me some more, really humiliate me, you know, oh boy. And no one even knew. No one asked for their money back. It was, yeah. It was a really good match, too.
It was a really good match. I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, so can you imagine? I had a great match with Pillman, a lot of good matches with Benoit, Steve Austin. I could never advance, though. But none of the bookers, with all their knowledge and brain power, could see that I could wrestle or ever picked up on stuff like that and said, hey, wait a minute, we could use him to our advantage. It's just like they were beating Luger around here, you know, in these shows in South Dakota or Iowa or something in front of 600 people.
Right. Like when they were keeping him off TV, but they would bring him to the house shows to lose to General Erection and Shane.
Yeah, you know, what's the point in that? You know, I mean,
they're trying to make his life miserable and make him quit, but you know, who's going to quit with that kind of money?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I mean, they shouldn't be copying my gimmick. I think I trademarked that. They shouldn't be taking a page out of Z-Man. No, you don't quit on that kind of money. It doesn't matter. What you do is you beat them on TV. They should bring DDP in to do the favors that a lot of guys did for him. I had to lose to him, and, you know, I thought when he was a champion, when he won the belt from Flair, what I want to know is how many kamikazes it took Flair to get to sleep that night after he had to lose to a geek like him. And also, I thought, you know, Joey Maggs called me. He says, you think that he's going to pick out names out of a fishbowl like he did with you? Remember that angle with his wife and that, and picking a name out of a fishbowl?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there have been so many blunders and mistakes. It's unbelievable how they've ruined that company. And where's Johnny B. Bad? They gave him
managing arena.
They gave him $330,000 a year.
That's right.
Yeah, and can you imagine?
He went to Vince.
Yeah, he went to Vince, but then they go, oh no, we bought a pig in a sack. He can't wrestle. Yeah.
And they oh boy.
What? Say it.
No, I mean it's like well, they made his wife into like a superstar and used it to like drive him out, you know what I mean?
Yeah, can you imagine that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Boy, I guess he had a lot of talent, huh?
We got to go to Matt in Vancouver. Matt, what's going on?
You guys doing tonight?
Hey, we're doing good. We're doing really good.
Doing good. How you doing? Is it Matt
Hey,
Burns?
Tom, how's it going?
Is it Matt Burns?
No, this is not Doink the Clown.
Very good. What's up?
First, out of all your bosses, is there any that you have, like, any, family relations with them, like you're friends with them?
Family
relations. No family relations.
No nepotism. No. No, it's not an incestuous family here. No.
What do you think about Larry Zbyszko doing commentary when he was on Nitro?
Well, I think there's history there with Eric Bischoff because, I think Larry was a pretty nice guy to Eric, and Eric, he could get along with pretty much everyone. Zbyszko, he was pretty clever, and it was Vern's territory, and he married Vern's daughter. And I think he was just nice to Eric, and Eric just kind of kept him on, gave him a job. But, he's a guy that made a career out of one match with Bruno.
Yeah.
Right?
Larry's not really the living legend. It's Bruno Sammartino, so isn't that copyright or something?
What?
Well, you can't copyright living legend.
No.
I don't think. What? Oh, Bruno might have trademarked it. I don't know.
but I think the gimmick. I think the gimmick there is I saw Zbyszko in the gym and he could bench press pretty good. So I said, I know your gimmick. You were a neighbor of Bruno, and you sucked up to him, and you were a bench press. You had a lot in common. You were the son that he never had, and he just kind of smirked and winked at me.
Yeah.
That guy that owns Mandalay Sports, is that the kid from Wonder Years?
No, he's just he's a partner, right, Dave?
Peter Goober's the main guy, but Jason Hervey, I think, he's a bigwig there. I know that.
But he's that guy from Wonder Years.
Yeah, who is the guy from Wonder Years?
Yeah. He was at the first Clash of the Champions, right?
He was a judge at the first Clash of the Champions, and he got hit by Paulie Dangerously's telephone on probably another Clash of the Champions. He did color commentary on a couple of Nitros.
That was terrible.
That was terrible. Yeah.
Tom?
Yes.
Do you go whenever the shows come? Do you go backstage and see any of the guys?
No, because if you do that and you were just nice to visit and stuff, they think you're snooping around for a job. I'm not looking for work in wrestling. Not in the ring. I mean, offer me just what DDP or some of these other guys. $1 million, $1.5 million is fine. And I'll do jobs. I can wear a mask. There's no trouble. I never question the finishes. I wonder what they pay for a guy like me now.
$500,000.
I have no injuries. I never got injured. I never injured anyone. I made all my shots. And look at the prima donnas now. If they come up with $1 million, yeah, sure, it'll take me like 3 months to get in shape because I'm cut at about 205 right now. But, I don't see any motivation. It's cash. I just wanted money. That's what I was doing wrestling for. It's about the money.
Do you have any good road stories of you in the early 90s with WCW?
Oh, my God. Don't get me started.
Like any groupies or something.
Oh, God, please.
Yeah, Dave knows. I'm sure he's heard. Pillman and I mean, oh, my goodness. Night after night after night, I mean, there was a lot of stuff going on. Talk about entertainment. He was a blonde-haired guy. I was a dark-haired guy. And if he couldn't get one or he couldn't get one, they'd like either the blonde-haired guy or the dark-haired guy. But there was a lot of stories. A different night. And we put heat on ourselves because the top guys, their favorite saying was, "Don't you know who I am?" Pillman and I didn't need to walk into a bar to have people notice us. The long hair, the way we look, and God bless our parents. I mean, that's what did it. We could be losers, and the guys would just look at me like I was some kind of a jerk. We'd pull out girls in the bar, and they didn't even know. They could care less. We had the line, where can we go to have a good time? We're from out of town. And Brian would look at him with that choir boy smile and just innocent-looking face and the jewelry. We dressed nice. We played the part. And I'm sure Flair, Sting pulled their hair out, all the married guys. They don't like young, good-looking single guys in the business. Okay?
Yeah.
I remember one time emphatically that, we were out with Flair and this and that. And we were talking, this and that, girls were around, and Flair said that both Brian and I were married. This girl came and stooged it off. So we went back to Flair, and we said, "What are you doing? What are you saying? What do you mean? We're not married." He goes, "I didn't say that. Flair, this girl told us." So we brought the girl up. "Yeah, you said you guys were married." He goes, "Well, I'm Ric Flair. I'm Ric Flair." He did his little jig, that little dance. Woo! Woo! But he's the booker man, and he was the most charming guy that I've ever met. God bless you, sir. God bless you, sir. I mean, he could overcome anything. I have never had so much fun. It's like Brian said, Tom, I just like being around the guy. I don't care if he lies or bullshits people. He's a lot of fun to be around with, and that's what I want to do is hang with him. And he is. You know, I mean, he's said things where I'm sure he put a few nails in my coffin, but that's past is the past. Bygones, bygones. He's the most charming, entertaining, fun guy going out I've ever met. He puts on a show. It's like Johnny Ace said, you got to go out with Flair. You got to see the Ric Flair show. He spends money. I've never seen anyone harder on cash than Flair. A lot of fun. A lot of fun. No one can compare to him.
Are there still any more Anderson brothers still in the business?
Ole got his son, just like Dusty and Watts, you know, I mean, got him in the business. His name is Brian. I think he wrestled at Chattanooga, right, Dave?
Yeah, he wrestled for Cornette for a little while, and then he never really wrestled after that.
Why is that?
And I think Gene's son wrestled for a little while around
Zan
Brad Anderson. Zan Panzer, right,
God,
right.
He was a really nice kid. Really nice kid, and so was Gene. Gene always looked after me when I was in WCW, just like Jody Hamilton. The old-timers is the ones I'd always listen to, or they knew, they'd been around, so they knew if you were getting shafted, like Harley Race or different ones. You know what I'm saying? I always looked at the old-timers, and I thought, God, am I going to look like this when I'm older? Broken down or, you know, depressed. You know what I'm saying? So I'm glad I got out. I'm glad I had the fun that I did. You know, it was 10, 12 years of fun, just unbelievable. The stories, I don't think I can say it on Dave's show, but, yeah, it was incredible. But just incredible.
But none of the old-timers really helped you? Is it just really like fight to survive in the wrestling business?
Well, you know, what they should do is, well, Brian, you know, he knew the deal because he was in football, and he was by damned if he was going to lose at wrestling, you know, especially when it was a work. His feelings got hurt. I've seen the guy cry several times, and the manipulating they do in wrestling, he got burned a few times by different people. But in WCW, he took a shine to Mike Graham, and Mike Graham helped him because Mike Graham was a short guy, too. So they had the common bond, and, you know, they had the common ground or common bond there. And Brian was a good worker in and out of the ring. And Mike Graham, you know, when you're a booker, or not a booker, but he was an agent or stooge, and they want a mentor. They have a lot of knowledge, but it's trying to get that knowledge out of them to help you advance. And Mike Graham was loyal to Dusty. I mean, you know, they pushed Dust, and I used to question. I was very vocal like I am now. But everyone knows that I was outspoken. Everyone knew where I stood, and the same things I say today was the same thing that was true back then. It didn't help me any, but I just couldn't believe they ran the company like that. I thought, oh, no, they're going to run it into the ground.
What do you think about WWF putting Dustin Rhodes as a queer, cunnish character?
It really worked good. It really was. It was the best. That's the most over Dustin Rhodes will ever be. And when I was with the Can-Man Connection, 6 months on TV was like 3 or 4 years in WCW. People would come up to Martel and myself, can we have your autograph? Guys in suit and ties. They were really into it back in like 86, 87. It was popular. WWF is the show for wrestling. You know, the kind of wrestling I liked is when I was a wrestler, you know, the wrestling and the TNA show, but it's never going to go back to that. You got to swing with the times. You know what I'm saying? I just want to see Stephanie McMahon in a T-back and stuff like Terry Runnels. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, you know what I'm saying.
I know what you're.
I'm sure it's not a sexist thing at all, or you know, he should have his daughter do the same as he does to the other girls, right?
But the women are just TNA now, which is good.
Yeah, but the guys that I work with want to see him nude. They want to see it nude. I don't, man. They want to see the shirt come off. They want to go one step further on a pay-per-view. They want to see it, you know, take it off and then cover, you know.
Have you ever noticed that on all those, I didn't even think about that till this was brought up, but on all those video shoots and everything like that,
the
only one that doesn't have to do it is Stephanie. You know, like when they do all the bikini shots in the Bahamas and all that.
You got cut off. What now? The video shoots, what?
Whenever the WWF does those video shoots and all the bikini calendars and everything, they never have Stephanie in there.
Why do you think that is?
Because of who her dad is.
Yeah.
She doesn't have to do that.
Yeah, but
her role was a serious character. The rest of them are window dressing.
Yeah.
That's how that's their ideas.
Now, does she really date Triple H?
from what I hear, at one point, but I guess Triple H and China are back together.
That's that girl that beat up what's his name, the WCW champion, Jarrett.
Yeah.
She beat him. She beat him in a match, right?
I think.
Didn't she beat him in a match and then he left? But he supposedly held him up for a big payday.
Yeah, right. You got like $150,000-$200,000 for the last match.
Yeah,
because
he held
his contract ran out the day before, and he held him up and he left. Right.
Yeah,
yes.
But he got beat by a broad, and he's the world champion. Now how does that work? I never lost to a woman, but they made him. See, that's where I lose. That's the double standard in wrestling. You know, people ought to smarten up on that. It's like, oh, geez, talent? I don't think so. If they draw, look at the gates. The gates are atrocious.
Actually, there's something here. I don't know if you know this one, but you know the particulars.
Okay.
And and it kind of rang a bell to me.
Dave, I'm a dinosaur. You know, I mean, this is a long time ago, so you know, you've got a lot of knowledge on it. But okay, what is it?
Okay, this person says that Jason Hervey on WCW Live said that Terry Funk is his uncle. Now, I remember being with Jason Hervey and Terry Funk.
Yeah.
And Jason Hervey told me that Terry Funk was his godfather or something. And
what, were you guys nude or what?
No, but it's just like the whole. I don't know. I'm skeptical of it because where would there be that connection?
All I know about him is, the letter that he sent to put Bischoff over to help him out, because Bischoff was a big mark for TV. I always wanted to be somebody, one of those guys who likes to hang around big guys or whatever. But I heard his mother was an agent. This is through Missy Hyatt. She's got the history on it. You should get Missy Hyatt on.
Missy Hyatt should do this show.
Huh?
We got to get Missy Hyatt to do this show.
Well, I mean, if there's anything I can do to help you out, I'd like to. I'm sure that's what was my demise. When there's a correlation between I got my notice from WCW because I was on her list of witnesses for that sexual harassment or whatever.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I saw her down in Florida the night that Bischoff just trashed her. She came out crying, and Bischoff was drinking. And I said, if you need a witness, I'll testify. You know, what they did to her and humiliate her, that's why it's always been a sealed, covered-up deal or whatever, But she's got a lot of history. You know, she used to live with that Jason Hervey.
Oh, yeah, for years.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is she knows the whole deal, but I think she told me one time, if I'm not mistaken, that Jason's mom was an agent, okay?
Jason's mom is an agent. I remember that now.
Okay, okay, fine. So I'm thinking that maybe that's the connection with Funk, and I don't think he's the godfather. You know what I mean? Terry's got a lot of stories and stuff like that, but I don't think he's the godfather of anybody, unless they're from Texas. And he's a great guy, but I don't think there's a connection there. Do you?
No, it didn't sound right, but I think that they know each other from. You know what? Oh, you know what I think it was?
What?
Okay. I think that Terry Funk. I'm thinking about mid-1980s.
Yeah.
Terry Funk was on a TV series. He was one of the stars of a TV series called Wild Side. Mm-hmm. And I think that Jason was also on that show.
Yeah.
And in that show, I could be wrong about this, but I think Jason was in that show as one of the kids of one of the main characters.
Oh.
And that would probably be where they met. And then Jason was always a big time wrestling fan.
Big mark for wrestling, big time.
I got to tell you a Jason Hervey story, which will probably get me in trouble, being that Jason's going to be in Power in a couple of days. But
yeah, but I mean, how long's that going to last? The guy's a billionaire, but I mean, they don't have nothing. If you look at their stock reports and stuff, they don't have nothing. It's a house built on sand. How long do you think they can take $8 million a month losses? Come on, Dave. You know better than that.
Yeah, but I got to tell this Jason story.
Okay, tell me.
Okay.
And then I got one for you.
Okay. A couple of years ago, they had the NATB convention, which is TV radio.
Yep.
All right, so it's the TV where they syndicate the TV shows and they sell it to the stations. Okay.
Yep.
So anyway, and WCW was doing a Clash of the Champions, in conjunction, so they would get all the TV bigwigs to go. So it was in Vegas. So anyway, in fact, this may have been the same day that Pillman met Vince McMahon. It might have been the year before because I think it was the same day because it's actually the story that changed Pillman's life. But I'll get to that one in a second too. Okay, so anyway, I'm in there, walking down the aisle, and I've known Jason Hervey for by this point for many years.
Yeah.
Okay, because he was friends with Spicoli. He used to hang out at the independent shows. He dated Missy Hyatt, lived with Missy Hyatt.
Yeah.
Hung around wrestling. Okay, so I read the Observer. I knew him
a lot of
for a long
fun to
time.
be with.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm walking down the aisle, and there's Jason Hervey. I go, Jason. I hadn't talked to him in a couple of years. Jason, how you doing? Okay?
Yep.
And he looks at me, and he points at me, and he just goes, you're, and it's like he's like, he would know me by sight, you know what I'm saying?
He was
pretending. Yeah, he's doing that thing and pretending not to know me. He goes, you're. Yeah. He goes, you're Dave Meltzer. And I go, yeah. And then he just goes, now you don't still watch wrestling now, do you? And I go, yeah, I still write about wrestling. Oh, you do? I used to like wrestling, but, whatever. It's like, kind of like, I used to like wrestling. It used to be fun. I had fun doing it, but, I've gone to bigger and better things, right?
Yeah.
That night, he's backstage at the WCW show, kissing up to all the wrestlers.
Yeah. Big time.
Yeah, like after telling me, like whatever. So anyway, I'm getting out of the thing, and Pillman shows up, and this is when Pillman's like totally out of his mind in Vegas, right?
Yeah.
And he wants to get in.
That. What do you mean out of his mind? Just whacked?
Oh, he's whacked.
Okay.
Yeah. This was when he was doing. When he was doing that thing with when him and Bischoff were working the world, remember that time period?
Yeah.
Okay, so he goes in. So I'm leaving, and he shows up, and he's just and he can't get in because you have to have like this pass. So I go, well, I'm leaving. So I hand him this pass, and he runs in, and then I hear he's going in there, and the first thing he does, he runs up to Vince McMahon, and he has someone take a picture of the two of them together, and Vince just thinks this guy's totally out of his mind, and it took like Ross and probably some other some of the other guys that knew Pillman to talk Vince into like Vince was afraid to negotiate with the guy, thinking that the guy was like completely out of his mind, and then finally hired him,
Kind of crazy, yeah.
Yeah.
But Brian was real clever. He knew that Jim Ross was a huge mark for football, like Dr. Death. Ross always liked football players. And I remember, hey, Jim, you got your game face on? He used to work Ross like you can't believe. And Jim bought into it. And Jim's a nice guy, but, he didn't ever do anything for me, okay? And that's not being bitter, but Jim Ross just really didn't do anything for me, a color commentator, they're told what to say or who to push. They can make or break you, okay, by color. But Jim Ross, he liked Brian. He liked the football thing. Jim Ross is another one. These guys like Jason Hervey, Eric Bischoff, Jim Ross, they like to control big guys or they want to be somebody. They're wannabes. That's why Jason Hervey was giving you the gaga about, oh, do you still do that and this and that? And then, boom, he's right back by the guys, the big guys. But he's a little midget, too. And I'll tell you, here's the story on him. When we did Family Feud that one time, when Stinger, myself, Jim Ross, see, Jim Ross is a mark for TV. He wanted to do it. They didn't want Jim Ross. The makeup lady told me. They didn't want him. They wanted a wrestler. He's not talent or, you know what I'm saying? Why would they want an announcer? They didn't want Jim Ross. And I know you can't say anything because you're probably close to him. Anyway, so let me trash him. Jason Hervey was over at the Marriott by the L.A. airport, and he picked up Pillman because I'm sure Brian had gotten his number and met him before, and they went around in his Porsche, and Brian goes, hey, Tom, you want to go out with Jason and me? He's coming by at 7 in his Porsche. And they wanted to run around Hollywood, and he was going to show them a good time. I said, no. I think there was like about 8 or 10 years difference, and he was just like a Wonder Years kid. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, back then, yeah.
But Brian wanted to go out and have fun, and, I think they want a network. It's like a lot of these guys think they're going to be Hollywood stars, they're going to have a movie career. It's not so. The actors, they're not going to let these geeks in. They're wrestlers. They're not movie stars.
Johnson's going to make it.
Who?
Dwayne Rock.
Oh,
Rock
of course. He's got charisma, of course. He could, and Steve Austin with that Nash Bridges and stuff like that. But I think wrestling's on a cyclic downturn now. I would guess when Austin comes back, who are they going to run through the mill? Right? They're getting low on talent, I would think. Right? I don't know. I would guess.
WWF's doing a hell of a job of developing talent in like those little feeder territories, though.
Oh, are they? I have no idea about that.
Yeah, they really are. They got that territory in Louisville, and they got some. They got some really good athletes. They got this guy, Dave Nelson.
Yeah.
This guy is a freak. You talk about a freak. It's like one of these things where he's like 6'4", 5", and I'm guessing 320, bench 7, and he's twice the size of Scott Steiner.
Really?
Yeah, and he's agile
too.
Yeah, totally natural.
Yeah, because I know. Okay, yeah, I got it. Yeah, just he's a freak of nature.
Yeah, you know about those natural guys that are benching 720, right?
Yeah. He's got good cable hookups, just tendons and ligaments, and that's just the way it is. It's just like Sting. He's supernaturally gifted with that chubby, mushy fat ass and a fat man suit on, and he's been on top for 15 years. He's not stooging behind the scenes, right? He's hiding behind the good. He's hiding behind the mask and the good book.
Yeah, the one thing with Sting.
Stop laughing.
The thing with Sting that's interesting is like he had that tag ever since the match with Flair in '88.
What tag?
The tag where Sting is going to be the superstar of the business, the most charismatic guy, and he never quite got there. But they always treated him like he was there and then some.
Yeah. I saw the houses he drew, and I want to say thank you to all the top guys in the early '90s. What did really nice buildings, but the people were dressed as chairs, like I said before. I mean, they didn't draw. Sorry.
Yeah.
And they stayed on top, and they're still on top.
Yeah.
It's like, hello. But
let's go to Dave in Cincinnati before we I got to get out of here. Dave, what's going on?
Not much. When you brought up DDP, I was just watching a match with DDP against Johnny Gunn from the main event show. It was like a 20-minute match for DDP.
Tom Brandy. Huh.
Yeah, what was it like? I think you were in a tag team with Buff Bagwell, I think, when he was first starting out. What was it like working with Johnny Gunn and Marcus Bagwell? Because Bagwell is known for having a big head, but I thought he had a lot of potential back then.
Bagwell? Well,
Bagwell and Johnny Gunn. What was it like with Johnny Gunn? I kind of thought they were trying to recreate the Can-Am connection.
Well, see, Johnny Gunn sent an 8x10 glossy, and Bill Watts walked around the office and asked all the secretaries, "This is a good-looking guy, right? This is a good-looking guy." And they So he hired him pretty much just on that. Johnny Gunn was a nice guy, but he was boring. I mean, he didn't have any spark. He's flat-footed, and I guess he drives from Philly all the way to the Midwest. When I was down at Harley's show, he's wearing a mask in the first match, and then he comes back in the main event as Salvatore Sincerely. There was nothing there for me. Brandy's work rate or the way Brandy was, he didn't bring anything to the table. I wanted, when I signed in WCW, as a singles. Pillman, yeah, that was fine. We had a good deal going on. You know what I'm saying? He could shine and do all his high spots. I didn't have an ego about it. You know what I'm saying? We traded off. It was a good match. Bagwell, he was too green. What was he going to do to benefit me? It was just the look they were going after. Bagwell was green, and Dusty came in. We're going to put the U.S. titles on this and that. This. I said, Bagwell. Bagwell says, "Oh, that's going to be good. We're going to get the belts." The belts don't mean nothing. They're just extra weight in your bag. Dusty had nothing for us. He was giving us the gaga. And I told Bagwell that, and he goes, "You think so?" "Oh, no, Dusty wouldn't lie." I said, "Listen, kid."
Remember Kurt Angle, Brian?
Uh-huh. I trust Vince McMahon more than any other man.
Yeah. I mean, listen, if Vince McMahon told me it was raining out, I'd go out and double-check. Not that I don't believe him, but I don't get wet. Don't piss down my leg and tell me it's raining outside. Come on. I conned to get into the business. I got Gagne on the con, and, I knew their game. I just didn't sell. I learned that from Vince McMahon. Don't sell. When they told me I had to go get beat in 2 minutes, I said, "Hey, that's a good finish. You want me to lose in 1 minute? That'll put them over stronger, right?" And obviously, they're just trying to fill out time in a card. They've never seen a guy like me. But no, Bagwell and Brandy, they were nice guys. But, Bagwell, he never developed. What happened? They made him look like a goof. I remember Piper and Flair got the best of him, and he didn't fight back or didn't stand up for himself. They got over on him. The older guys.
Oh, and Piper in the. I can tell you the Piper interview story. The Piper interview story. This was when they were setting up the boxing match.
Yeah.
And Piper and Bagwell wanted to. They were supposed to do a thing on Nitro where they would go head-to-head with each other, and Piper kind of went to Bagwell and said, to work it out so Bagwell would look good, and then Bagwell was kind of like, "It's okay, we can do it live, okay?"
Yeah.
And Piper thought, "Oh, we're going to do it live," and then Piper was just like, I guess he just decided that he was going to make the guy look bad, and even though Roddy may not be what he was in the 80s, he was enough to make Bagwell look bad on a live interview, if you know what I mean, because he had all that experience.
Yeah. Yeah, they're clever. They're putting themselves over. It's a very selfish business, but that's where, in WCW, everything was okay. You go out and you stink up the house. "Oh, good match, Z, good match." What? I'm going, what?
Well, I remember that interview well. And actually, the thing what Piper said to make Bagwell look bad, in the middle of the interview, Piper goes, "How many times have you headlined MSG?"
That was the line. He was sitting there waiting with the MSG line.
What'd he say?
Bagwell's
just goes-
response was, "I wasn't born yet."
Yeah. But he goes.
I can hardly hear him, Dave.
He goes, I remember that was the line that Piper was waiting for. Bagwell's just going off on, this and this and this. And
Yeah.
he just turns to him and goes, how many times have you sold out Madison Square Garden?
Are you serious?
Yeah, which is like, that's one of those things those old timers like to say,
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
And then Bagwell came back with, well, I wasn't born yet. And I was just like, oh my God, the thing with Piper though is like, you just bush leagued your company by saying Madison Square Garden's it, and your company can't even run a show there.
Yeah.
Because WCW can't even get into that building. They never could.
Exactly, but what I'm saying is, doesn't anyone see that and say, no, don't say, no, we're trying to build things. We're not trying to cut each other's throat, but see, no one steps in and runs it. No one's got any cojones.
How do you like that thing when they start, like, when Russo came in and they started, like, just talking about, like, when we were in the WWF and this and that, and I'm just thinking, like, God, everyone knows that, like, you're losing. Don't go in there and say, like, well, they're the major leagues and all us guys in our glory days, we were in the WWF. Remember? It's like, God, that just kills your company.
Yeah, you don't bring that stuff up. And what's Russo doing on TV anyway? Huh?
That is.
I mean, he wasn't on
he can help the ratings.
What?
He was doing it because they needed someone to help the ratings, and he had to do it himself because nobody else could do it.
Oh yeah, that's why they call the wrestlers talent, right? They couldn't build any young talent that could take bumps and wrestle, right?
Yeah, do you know one of the things about that is that that Russo said that, and actually that he didn't want to go on TV, but everyone else on the booking committee said that they needed him to go on TV, so therefore he did. And you know what that is?
Them.
Oh, exactly. Well, look who he surrounded himself with.
Yeah.
Like he surrounded himself with people that weren't going to say,
Yes,
that they
man.
weren't. Yeah, exactly.
The committees have never worked. The committees have never worked. If you get up, like Kevin Sullivan said in the Wade Keller interview, you get up and go to the bathroom, they're trashing. You don't know, brother. And all that, brother.
One of the things I wanted to bring up, what always made WCW come off as bush league to me is Jeff Jarrett comes into WCW. He was a mid-carder in the WWF, and WCW just shoves the guy down his throat, gives him pay-per-view main events. So it's like any mid-carder from the WWF can just walk into WCW and be a headliner.
Well, that's because of the mentality. Look at Bryan Adams. I mean, they thought that they had this coup because they were signing Bryan Adams.
Yeah.
When Bryan Adams and Vince had the falling out, and then they signed him, they thought that they had signed main event talent. Remember?
Yeah.
Actually, when Bryan Adams was Crush in 1992, I actually did think he had a lot of potential.
So did I.
Yeah,
Good guy.
Who was that guy with the kendo stick they signed from ECW and they paid him more than they paid me, $250,000 a year?
Sandman?
Yeah. Can you imagine that? And they found out he couldn't work. It's just like Mark Merrill. They paid him $330,000, and he was going to do the guy from Little Richard's story, and he was taking acting lessons. I thought, oh my God.
Public Enemy.
Well, the thing is, if somebody in that spot from WCW were to come into the WWF, and the WWF wanted to push him as a headliner, the first thing they would do is beat him down and have him job to other guys, and then they would build him
Chris
back up.
Benoit. Yeah.
But I actually agree with that philosophy.
Raven.
I totally agree with that philosophy, though, because when Jeff Jarrett came in and started getting all these pay-per-view main events, to me
that made the whole company look bad. Yeah.
What, in WCW?
But traditionally, they've always done that. I mean, even in, 1989, when I saw guys like the Iron Sheik, even though, the Iron Sheik and the Barbarian and Greg Valentine, even and Junkyard Dog, even though those guys, made it other places, with UWF, since Junkyard Dog may have achieved...
Dave, we're, totally late. We got to get out of here. I got to say, okay, I'll talk to you later. Tom, I want to thank you very much. I'm sure we'll do this one again.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure talking to you. I'm sorry I didn't mean to make you laugh, but it's a very serious
That's
business.
Okay.
Hey,
all right.
this, this reality wrestling?
Tell me about it. No.
Well, what they're going to do with that Mandalay?
Tell me.
Well, don't they want to get into that, the cross promotion? Expect a lot of Hollywood celebrities and stuff with Bischoff's thing is, right?
I would think so, yeah.
He's developing that road rage, but they want to have kind of reality wrestling like they're doing the reality stuff, right?
Oh, as far as the other TV shows, yeah.
Yeah, they could have Sting and Flair in a 60-minute Broadway to decide who the WCW franchise is. Or they could have me and Kevin Wackles, remember Nails? Against Pat Patterson and Vince McMahon in a loser gets sexually harassed match.
Oh, God.
How about that?
How about that?
How about Kevin Nash and DDP wrestling in just black trunks and boots and metal plates and knee braces and metal rods? You know, thing in fact when a loser gets born again.
Okay, we gotta go.
Okay, Dave, thanks.
We'll be talking to you later.
Okay,
all right,
buddy.
We'll see everybody Monday at 6.